Yeah, Baruch Hashem, I was zeicher to be in Telz Yeshiva, so at least to say I saw great people. To be by Shiva of Gifta, Zeichat Tzadok Livracha. I also had a special privilege to be there for Pesach. I was from Australia, so I was Ben Osmanim. So Father sang Gesundheit and Shtar called him up. I said, maybe I have a chus to be there for a Seder. He said, what's for a Seder? Against Yom Tov. To get a whole Yom Tov. So it was a tremendous privilege to be by him for Pesach. I wasn't sure if I meant the whole Yom Tov, just the first days I met Chalamoid also. I didn't have that clear. So Chalamoid after Shachris, I hung around type of thing, like, he was within reach. No, Ellie, what's for breakfast? That's okay. Anyway, it was tremendous chus, Baruch Hashem. But, so once I was there for Yom Tov, Rebbe was so kind, she said, well, you have to keep coming back. So I used to go back Friday afternoons a lot of times when he was eating lunch. Tremendous chus. But anyway, I think also many people didn't have the opportunity to know him really in that personal way of home. He'd be Rashiva, his Tkifis was Gevaldik, his Shiurim were unbelievable. His persona was tremendous. But to be able to see, interesting thing, after he came back from Eretz Yisrael, he went when he made the yeshiva. So they finally made Tavshel Lamed Zayin. So after Baruch Sorotzkin was nifter, so that's another whole story with the Stipler, how he went to the Stipler. Stipler said he had to come back to America. Anyway, he became back as Rosh Shiva, but he opened up in Israel. His oif and his character blossomed in a certain way, which he became much more open. His hergeshim very open. I mean, from what I knew from before and afterwards, but he came back from Eretz Yisrael. The marshal, he came back in Shabbos after Shalosh Shudas. He moved to the apartment in the dorm, by the way, because he says he's not going to move back to his house. He wants to feel goes. He was in Eretz Yisrael. He became so in love with the land. But he moved back to America. He's going to the dorm. Doesn't want to move into his house. He wants to feel goes. And this is Telz Yeshiva campus, which is, Victor Miller once said it's, I don't know the exact words, but holiest place on earth, basically. He said it's a campus on a hill. It's only Torah. He was there for his grandson's chasana. He said something to that effect. It was like, what else is there? But even there, Lamaisa Gifta had the Gvaldige Hergish of what Eretz Yisrael was, how he lived in Eretz Yisrael. He said he used to walk around and tell stone by himself. He used to go for walks every day. Old Machshava, he wanted to be involved in his own thoughts. No one could come with him. He's told me once. He said he was once walking. He hears someone singing, "Hey Horim, bihag voice, yiftzuchu lifnechem rina." He stopped to see who's singing. Or for zich, just coming out of himself. Eretz Yisrael, the Hergeshim was married. So he came back though from Eretz Yisrael, lived in the dorm, and they made an apartment out of a couple of rooms there. No carpet. And then one Ben Osmanim, he was gone. He came back. There was carpet there. He was fuming. Put carpet there. One of the balabatim of the Heights Valtish. Anyway, but he was in the dorm. So after Shalosh Shudas, the oil of he had Chevra still from Eretz Yisrael that came back with him. Some Chevra used to come to the apartment to sing the Gunim. And he had a time clock that the lights went out. So Gavaldig and the Gunim used to sing the Hergish. It was Hafel. People don't know that part of it. He said in the literature, he says in Litiflegman, singen a niggin halbe Shoye. He used to sing a niggin half an hour, get into the niggin. Not in America. Niggin, next, get into the niggin. And it's dark. He said, he went to Slobodka, he was visiting, Victor Miller said, Musar in Slobodka. Apparently they didn't have electricity, I believe, so Shabbos, after Shalosh Shudas, there was no light. You sit in the dark and learn Musar. You say over the Musar, the dark, the Hergeshim, open up. It tells Nishkivet, it tells that already electricity. He said, missed that. It tells Musar was not the same. The Hergish, you're uninhibited. Same thing. You sing a niggin in the dark, your lave opens up. He said that there was the Gunim used to sing. They used to sing. They said they used to sing the Alter Rebbe's niggin. The Babbage says Alter Rebbe's niggins. They said we sang it once, and apparently at that time, Nusach of the Babbage was not to sing this niggin maybe once a year. So we were at a chasana of a friend, and we sang that niggin. And the father came out, hey, Roof, stop, we're singing. We were bachrim, and we fifed him on, and we sang it anyway. Getting into the good end, Geshem is my. But that part of it, the people, I don't think that his Geshem of Eretz Yisrael, Mashiach, this whole thing, he lived it. He talked about, he could talk as he's speaking. Eretz Yisrael just cry. His Molly Hergish, he'd cry, he'd talk about Mashiach, he'd cry, he'd sing that Yam Yam Nigen Wald Wald Shchina Shchina, wo bist du? The expression came out, and his anticipation of Mashiach was Hafel of Hella. Remember once, it was Tov Shin Nun. So he says, oh, Tov Shin Nun, Tei Shnas Mashiach. His Rebbe says, it's a Nun. Tei Shnas Mashiach is a Mem. Ah, Nun, a Mem, a Chilek, who cares? Listen, come and shine. He should come already in Afgabina. One time Rosh Hashanah, he was mamish crying. He said, "Spit the baby, there's Mashiach. Come and die to you." I felt in my bones Mashiach was going to come this year. He pushed it. He durchgelebt. He lived it. He lived it. He dreamt it. You see, das again nergation with Hafel Fell and Chakaloi. Bechol Yom Sheyavo was Mashiach. We weren't zoiche to that. But, next time was near Yisrael Taka. Quite some time later, he was getting older, so he went to Rav Shach. That's its own story, because he said he went to Rav Shach. He was very close to Rav Shach. They Gvaldig Yedidus. I think the way it started was originally, Rav Shach was 20 years older than him. He said that he used to put a sefer near a gifter stander, and he used to walk by and eventually pick it up. And so I think one Yom Kippur, someone left an Avi Ezri near there. I don't know if it was intentionally, not intentionally, he picked it up. He went through it. And the next 5 days, he wrote Hawaras on Avi Ezri. It was like, I think that started their relationship. Rav Shach said he wrote back half of the Hawaras. He didn't have klech, I still owe him the other half. But that started the relationship, I believe. He loved him, he said. So when he went the next time to Eretz Yisrael, Rav Shach sent two Ingelite Kabul upon him at the airport. And so I give to say, I told them, his Baruch Hashem, he was taking care of it. Didn't, they came to the kid. So he said, "Zog the Rosh Hashivi, he shouldn't get me upset this time." So what do you mean? Because last time I came to Eretz Yisrael, he came to visit me. So who's he coming to visit? Shiva, the God of Lador has come to visit me. You say his name. I'm coming to visit him next week, Wednesday. Next Woche, Mittwoch, Kekumen. Well, sure enough, he said on Tuesday there's a phone call. I think he said that Rabbits, I think he was staying in Beit Vegan, was wherever the apartment was, to get a phone call. The neighbor, Rav Shach, is on his way. Oh, yeah. So he said he came in, and they fell on each other, and they cried like. Then he tells Rav Shach, "Chabaraya Brudas Mashiach Kumpam." I said, "I have a raya, clear proof Mashiach's coming imminently." He says, "He's coming. But you hear there's a hergish that's coming right away. Like, what's your raya?" So, no, Mashiach's going to come. He needs a Kabbalah's Panim committee. Who could be the Rosh the Kabbalah's Panim committee? Shiva Lane. How long did Shiva wait? He was already in his 90s. Shots laughed. He smiled. But anyway, he said that he's trying to get himself to be allowed to come back to Eretz Yisrael. He wants to come back. So Shach, no, he wants to come back to Israel. Shach, that's Zirik. You have to go back to America. That's Zirik. So you have to come back. You have to come back. When Shach told him you have to come back to America. Also, came back, but he used to sign the letters. Poi Goylas Wycliffe. Then the date. You got to feel Zachin to get a few letters. Goylas Wycliffe. That's it. The way he lived it that way. But Yashvus, who could talk about that? We could say Baruch Hashem was Zachin to be sitting there to see the Avos at Torah, the shir they used to give. I think came out. I don't think ever we made lunch in the yeshiva on time. I think every time you get so lost in the shir, finally look up, boy, just get to lunch. It was ready afterwards. Says the involvement in this learning and the way you kiss the sefer after he finishes, you bend the paper. The Avos, it was the Avos at Torah, the Tiefkeit, the Dveikus to the Torah, the Asmada, there was It was an amazing experience. But he all grew up in, he was Portsmouth, Virginia. He was born, but he ended up in Baltimore. He always attributed his success in learning, wherever it was, to Shimon's bracha. Shimon Shkop came to Baltimore. Apparently, the Rav there was a Talmud, so he was 9-year-old or something, and he was his friend, and Shimon gave him a bracha, so also can learn it or something. So he attributes whatever learning he got was from there. But he was always vocal. I mean, he was always a person that's a personality. So when he went to Lita, he went by ship. He always describes his vision, and firstly the trip on the ship itself was something which is an amazing experience, because he said he remember seeing the goyim, they were whining and dining and dancing or something. The ship, all of a sudden the storm came in, the whole place already froze. I mean, all the shikorim like this, and they thought they were going to die. And eventually it went back to normal, and everybody went back to the parties. They said he was so taken by that, how you can in the moment see the emes and then back. The first thing he met the tells Rav, when he got to the yeshiva, he tells Rav his heritage. They said he used to describe when he came into the yeshiva, he looked and saw, feed him the bachim land in the ass mother. Like that was his first impression of the yeshiva. So he said that he went to the back of the Beis Medrash, he saw a bacha there, and the guy was such a smile on his face, so such a simcha. So there's Rabbi Paperman who came from Baltimore, he was there before him. And Litty didn't meet him, but he heard about this American boy that's coming to the yeshiva. So Rabbi Paperman came over to say Shalom Aleichem. The first thing he asked Rabbi Paperman was this, tell me, this bacha, the one that's so happy, he's smiling, he says he must be the richest guy in the yeshiva, right? And so Rabbi Paperman burst out laughing. He had to hold his sides from his laughter. He said, that's the poorest bacha in yeshiva. He can't afford 10 lit or something, whatever that amount was. And he said it was such an eye-opener for him. Torah brings us our simcha. He thought the only way you could have simcha in America is some geld. And this is after he was really learning in Shivas Lachanan. He steiged away over there. He had Gvaldig Rebbeim. But the concept was like, I said, simcha from Torah. It said, he'd get very upset. People would say the Torah had been rebuilt after the war. Do you know what it was before the war? He described the literature, the people living there. Damaratzim, he said, there was a smith. He said the Shmir, there was an Amoretz, he said, but a Machlok Aleph Bacha, 9th grade boy, now equivalent to, they'd walk into his smith, whatever it was, he stood up, Malay Kamoshi, he'd stand up his full Shivacha. Torah, the Shivas, the Torah was, you can't even appreciate, I said, what was the atmosphere. There's a whole different way. To bother him, people would say Torah is. He did give credit to America though, on the way Frumkeit issues. He said it's from here in a sense. He gave credit for that. But he hated the word Torah rebuilt. You know what it was? The Esek Torah, the Amkus Torah. He would talk about the Telzer of giving a shir, Zvekis Tashem in a shir. It was a different oilam. It was a whole different understanding. His connection, what he took from it. He was there 5.5 years. He was in Lita without coming home. He became a chassan. That's its own story. But he became a chassan, so he was supposed to come back to America to visit his parents. This was in 1938. He's going to go back to learn by the Brisker for 2 years. And then again, they have the chassan. That was the original plan. But then he came to America to visit his parents, and they saw the war clouds coming up in Europe, and he stayed in America. And Rebbetzin came over here, and they got married in America without his parents. So he said, I think my chasna was still kosher, I didn't have a photographer. So 2 days later, we went to get a picture to send back to the Shreya. Shreya was not by the chasna. He said that, I think he said he paid all of $75 for the whole chasna. He said, I think they served fish, if I'm not mistaken. It was, how many people were there? But he said, the whole oilam came afterwards. For Simchas Chassan Kala, it was, they still talk about the chasna. It means, the simcha, people experienced the real simcha. It wasn't what the externalities, all these type of things. Where that there was his Clarkite, his Ashkafa, he was I once heard from him that the person was going on a date with a girl, and she had mentioned that she was lunchtime she'd learn Michtav Meliyo. So the Bacha is very impressed. She works in computers, whatever it was. He hit the ceiling. He said, "Oh, Rebbeinu Shalom, so mach Mannes of the Amerikaner Meidlach." Verstehen Sie, Ramban, was versteht? You have to know, he said, Bachen verstehen das nicht. You have to be careful. He said, Avada, you need to have the gewaltige chinuch and everything else that's needed, but the person has to be careful. Absolutely, you have to know when and what. But there was the clerk, I remember a Bacher calling me from another yeshiva. What's Rav used to say about the matzav in this situation? If you wanted to hear clarity, hashkafas hachayim and olam, how do you understand things going on in the Torah world? What's going on b'chlal? And it was something that he would say as he understood. It's very clear. He stood up for the coveter of Shach. He was once saw him on fire. Shach, so if he had enough money, he'd pay just to go to see Rav Shach once a month, just to see Yisrael and come back. If you have appreciation of what that man really was, his Av, his Torah, his Emes. And Rav Shach himself kept saying he has to be the one they had the Messiah had from Chofetz Chaim, from Biskarov, Chasadish, Chaim Oizer. We get mixed, murky sometimes in what we see things, and a person has to see the Emes of Torah, has to be something clear.
Is he as Rav Gifter the one, the story with the operator?
Which one?
The one I called Chicago?
No.